Welcome to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Now here along with Dr. Bonati, your host, Kimberly Brummel.
Well, thank you for joining us for American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brummel, joined by our executive radio producer, Ethan Euchre.
I am here as always.
Well, we have a jam-packed show, but, something that sets the Bonati Spine Institute apart from all other minimally invasive spine surgeons out there is the fact that, Dr. Bonati pretty much invented minimally invasive laser spine surgery. But not just that, it's the Bonati spine procedures, which consistently reflects over 94% patient satisfaction. Now, when we say over, it's always over 94, but that actual number is 98.75%.
That's pretty fantastic.
It is, especially considering he takes on some of the most challenging spine surgeries. He doesn't just take the easy cases. He takes the ones where maybe other surgeons have gotten in there. They've tried their invasive methods. They've put in screws and plates and different things like that, and they weren't fixed. They find their way to the Bonati Spine Institute, and he succeeds where others fail.
Yep, we've had people on the show before where, they've been to 2, 3, 4, 5, half a dozen different specialists and doctors of supposedly of good standing. And, these doctors say, we can't do anything for you. We can't help you.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bonati encourages the challenge. He loves it. So, That's why we say he succeeds where others have failed, because he'll take on those cases and he'll fix them.
He does, all the time. Well, we have a jam-packed show, so we'll start talking about our guest. We have Dr. Joan Nichols. Now, this is going to be an update because we already had her on the show. They grow these tiny lungs in a lab, and I believe they just did the procedure.
Yeah,
we transplanted.
We had Dr. Nichols on back in January, I believe, to talk about how they can grow human lungs in a lab in 3 days. Yeah. And the reason we're having her back on is because they actually grew pig lungs and did a transplant of one of these sets of lungs that they grew in a laboratory and put it into a live animal. So we're going to get an update on how the procedure went and how the pig's doing.
That's fantastic. And then we have Martin Pistorius. They call him Ghost Boy. Now, it's incredible because his life is chronicled in the New York Times best-selling memoir, Ghost Boy, a miraculous escape of a misdiagnosed boy trapped inside his own body. And he's going to tell us about it, so you don't want to miss it. And then, of course, we have Dr. Michael Grossman, and he's going to be on to discuss the difference between osteopathy training versus MD training. And there is a big difference.
And this is something that I didn't know anything about until you brought it to my attention. And I think I'm very reflective of your average person because, you don't think that there's a big difference between I didn't even know what a DO was until you told me.
Me either.
So
that was a Dr. Bonati thing.
Yeah.
He pointed it out that DOs and MDs, two completely different things.
Big difference.
And then we're going to find out about our patient. We have Fran Sutton on the line. She's from Spring Hill, Florida.
Yep.
In today's Back to Life segment, we will talk to a patient of the Bonati Spine Institute who went from living a life that was restricted by pain and discomfort through their journey of finding the Bonati Spine Institute and are now living pain-free.
So it is our pleasure to introduce Fran Sutton from Spring Hill. Welcome to the program.
How you doing, Fran?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good.
Good.
I'm okay.
Well, why don't you tell us how you came to first be in pain? Now, you had back and neck pain, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When about was that? How long ago?
Probably about 10 years ago now.
Okay. And why don't you describe that pain? Were you in an accident? Was it something degenerative in nature? Do you know what brought it on?
No, I'm a nurse, and I was working in a nursing home, and just lots of constant lifting and pulling on patients, and lots of heavy carrying objects and things like that. Just after many years of nursing, it just caught up with me, I guess.
Okay. Now, the type of pain that you were feeling, was it limiting you in those tasks? Was it like a localized pain, a radiating pain? Why don't you describe that?
Okay. I actually had pain in both of, on the back in both of my legs. I was not able to lift my legs up. I couldn't go up a step anymore. I had pain down the outside and the back of both of my legs. And one day when I was performing CPR on a patient on the floor, after we were finished, I was not able to get up off the floor. I was not able to actually use my legs to get up off the floor, and people had to help me get up. So it was really kind of embarrassing. And and like I said, I couldn't even lift my leg to go up a step anymore. So it was just, I wasn't able to do much of anything. I stopped going out. I stopped doing lots of activities that I used to do.
Wow. So there you are helping somebody, obviously with CPR, and then having a problem where you can't even move.
You have to be helped, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
How long did you suffer in that pain?
Well, at the time I was living in Ohio,
okay.
And I knew of Dr. Bonatti's office here in Hudson, Florida. And I did go to another doctor there, but of course they want to do the open procedure and fuse, and I didn't want to have that done when I knew that there was somebody who could do it a different way. So I actually waited. I was like that for about 2 years before I finally did move back to Florida.
Wow.
And then I looked up the Bonatti Institute and came here.
Wow. So for 2 years you suffered in that pain. During that time, I mean, did you just take Advil, or
how did you
deal with that?
It was hard. I mean, I laid around. After work, I'd just go home and sit on the couch or lay down, and other than working, I didn't do anything else anymore. It was just getting worse and worse. I took lots of Tylenol and Motrin and things like that, and used ice and heat. Wow. As much as I could, but that was about it.
Wow.
I became a real couch potato.
Well,
and gained a lot of weight.
and a trooper, though, to be putting up with that constant agonizing pain for 2 years. I can't say that I would have been able to do it myself.
So, you already knew about the Bonatti Spine Institute. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your experience when you first contacted them.
Well, I just came directly into the office, and I just made an appointment to be seen. And actually, when I came, Dr. Bonatti was on vacation, so I had Dr. Grossmith examine me.
Okay. And did you feel like he understood the root of the problem that was causing the pain?
Yes, he right away told me what it was and where it was and everything.
All right.
And we scheduled to have a procedure done.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the actual procedure, because there's the conscious IV sedation and you interact with the surgeon, did you understand the importance of doing that versus being put under general anesthesia where you really don't know the outcome? Yeah, no, I understood because they want to be able to tell right away if the pain is resolved, and that way they're not able to do any damage to your nerve, because if they get near your nerve, you tell them to stop. You can feel it, actually. Okay. Now, did you watch?
Yes, I did.
You did?
And what'd you
awesome.
think? Yeah. Pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It always amazes me how they can do that through a tiny hole.
Uh-huh. But Anne, it must have been amazing when you felt the relief of pain happen, knowing that was being done as you're watching.
Yeah, did you feel immediate relief of pain while you were still on the operating table?
Yes, I did. Actually, he had me get up a little bit up on my knees, and I felt the difference right away. And after the procedure, I was able to actually, they put a step stool in front of me, and I was able to step right up onto it with no problem.
That you hadn't been able...
With the one leg, and then I had to have the other leg done.
Got it. But you hadn't been able to do that previous to the surgery?
No, not at all.
Wow.
No, I couldn't even go up a step.
And were you
to get into the car, I had to lift my leg up into the car.
Oh.
And Fran, were you in sort of disbelief when they asked you on the operating table to get up? Because I watched the procedure with Kimberly, and they did the same thing. And even from my standpoint, I'm thinking, really, the patient's going to get up on their hands and knees on the table? Were you in disbelief?
Yeah, I was like, well, they told me ahead of time, so I was expecting it.
Yeah. And so you felt immediate pain relief then, huh?
Yes, I did.
And what was
I felt the strength right away back again a little bit. I felt the improvement of the strength right away.
That's
good.
Great.
What was that recovery process like for you Fran?
Oh, it was fine. I mean, I was able to start walking a little bit more and doing a lot of things a little bit more. And actually, right after that, I went on to a very big diet and lost a lot of weight and
Good.
started living my life again. So I actually feel really good.
That's fantastic.
And so how long ago was this procedure, Fran? Did you say?
It's about 2 years now.
About two years ago?
2 years ago.
And how do you feel right now, right this instant?
Oh, I feel great, yeah.
You feel great.
Much better than years ago.
Wow.
That's awesome. So
Good.
so your life has gotten back to where it was prior to the pain.
To normal. Yep, it sure has.
That's great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. We always like hearing about how we get people back in motion. And, of course, it's another Bonati Succeeds Where Others Fail.
Another success
through
story.
the Institute. Yes,
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Fran.
Thanks a lot, Fran.
You're welcome.
You
Take
have a
care.
great day, okay?
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Another success story.
I know.
Yep.
And the thing is, people don't really expect, especially when they can barely lift their leg to go up a step,
Yeah.
to them think they're going to be on fours and moving around trying to recreate that pain. And then all of a sudden she said she felt the strength come back
Yeah.
almost
Unbelievable.
immediately.
Yep.
And she was able to make the steps. And she said that happened with one leg. They had to do another area of the back, which affected the other leg, and then pain-free.
Yep.
So there you go. You
So-
heard it here.
Yep. So if people are in pain like Fran, how do they get in touch with the Bonati Spine Institute?
Well, they can do so by calling 855-267-0482, or they can visit Bonati.com. You know, it's not just back pain, it's neck pain. Sometimes they're shooting pain down the arms, into the hands, fibromyalgia. That is typically related to the spine. Headaches, migraines, RSD. There is hope. So make sure you reach out to the Bonati Spine Institute. Coming up next, we're going to speak to Dr. Joan Nichols about the lungs being grown in labs and how it worked out once it was transplanted into a pig. Make sure you stay tuned. You're listening to American Medicine Today.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years, and it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results, no pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone, nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now, I can garden, I can cook, and I'm really thrilled. The outcome has been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone, I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
You're listening to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
I am here.
Well, we have Dr. Joan Nichols, Associate Director of Research and Operations at the Galveston National Laboratory in Texas. Now, she was a guest of ours back in January, and she's back on to discuss how her team of scientists have successfully grown human lungs in a lab in just 3 days, and she's back to give us an update on how a recent transplant procedure went. So thanks for being here, Dr. Nichols.
Good afternoon. Nice to speak with you.
Nice to speak with you, too.
Well, and to start out, too, since you are a returning guest, maybe we should just sort of summarize for people that maybe missed the first time you were on. Just give us a brief synopsis of, the amazing research that you all do over there in Galveston.
So for the last 15 years, my research group is trying to develop even small amounts of lung tissue to in the laboratory situation. This would be human lung tissue. Okay. Well, last year, we were actually the first group to generate lab-grown bioengineered human lungs, in our laboratory. And so this is a really big deal, and we talked about this before, where we actually take lungs that can't be used for transplantation, and we discard about 10,000 of these a year. So we can take these lungs that can't be used for regular transplantation for people, and some of them we can use to make scaffolds, which are the support structures for the lungs themselves, and some we use as a cell source. And the 3-day part is we can make a scaffold in 3 days. It takes me actually about 6 weeks to produce a fully developed, a fully formed structure with cells on it that actually looks and acts like lung.
Wow.
And so basically what you do is you strip all of the cells out of it.
We take
correct?
And make a scaffold. You produce what's called a skeleton, basically. You take all the cells out of it. All of the blood is removed. And what you're left behind with are the proteins that the cells themselves make and attach to and survive in. And for our lung, this is a lot of support material that's very stretchy and very strong, things like collagen to help, that actually provide the support, and that is your scaffold. And so the cells come from a second lung that we isolate all of the cells from the trachea, the respiratory tract itself, all of the blood vessels, and then separate from that, all of the parenchymal tissues, all of the other cells in the lung that are involved in making a lung function the way a lung should. And so we take those, and it may sound kind of silly, but we put them back on another scaffold in a very careful, controlled manner to allow the cells to attach where they should and reform into the tissues that they should. And so that's what you do when you bioengineer these lungs.
Amazing.
It's incredible. And the reason we're having you back on the show is because you guys actually grew a set of lungs for a pig, right? And then you actually transplanted them into a live animal.
Actually, that's exactly what we did. So we removed the lung from our first pig in February on the 16th. We isolated all the cells from one of the lungs from this pig because we had to see whether or not, if we grow cells that I take from you and I make a lung for you, if I grow it outside your body, is your body going to say, welcome home, or is your body going to say, forget it and reject it?
Right.
And so these cells had to come from the pig himself. And pigs, like people, can survive on one lung. And the pigs survived very well while we took those cells, cultured them to increase their numbers, and then seeded a scaffold from a different pig. And then grew that lung for about 6 weeks. And then we transplanted that single lung back into the same pig. And that's what the big deal is, that we've done a real transplant. And the pig did very well. And the transplanted tissue, it expanded the way the normal lung would. It looked very much and functioned very much like normal lung. And that's the biggest step for us, we're so excited about it. But for anybody that does bioengineered tissue, there hasn't been a lot of progression to do this type of transplant work, and we've learned so much from just doing this first pig.
Wow.
And so how has the animal responded to this transplant? And his name is Harry, isn't it?
Harry was
Harry
our
the
first
pig.
pig. Yep. You know, the animals that we use we're very aware of being very reasonable about doing animal studies, but we really have to do this to understand what we would do for people as we develop the procedure. Harry was on his feet the same day. He had amazing progress. We actually sent you a small videotape showing Harry, who is actually wanted me to open the cage door and feed him. We give him snacks when we go to see him. He was pretty spoiled. But, you know, moving around, jumping around, they gave him toys within a couple days because he was bored. Aww. He was absolutely in amazing shape. There was no signs of rejection, no infection, and he did beautifully through the whole experimental time frame, which was 15 days. And unfortunately, we had to euthanize him at 15 days, not because he had to be, but because we had to be able to evaluate his own response to the tissue we put in, and we needed to know what was happening to that bioengineered lung. Was it developing vascular tissue? Was it surviving well? Was there any area that wasn't functioning properly that would have caused a problem for him?
Dr. Nichols, you can't see this right now, but Kimberly has the most appalled face on right now.
I know things have to happen for research. I understand.
Kimberly, you want to know something? We all stood around before Harry had to be euthanized, and we were depressed for days. But
I'm sure
we needed to know this because I need to know if we're going to put this in a person.
I understand.
Specifically, if we're going to engineer lungs for a pediatric case in a child, we had to do this.
Yeah.
But our plan is that although Harry was the first pig and wasn't to be survived, that there are pigs down the line that our third and fourth pigs will be survived as long as they possibly can. Okay. You know, before they get bigger than 500 pounds. That's our only limit here with handling an animal that's really large. But the plan is to survive them and make sure that we have long-term survival. But Harry we appreciate him. I mean, we all were very involved because we handled him every day to evaluate his surgical site and to listen for his respiratory function. But Harry was an amazing, you know, part of this experiment. That's the only way that we can prove that these tissues would survive and function for people.
Gotcha. So we're just about out of time, Dr. Nichols. So what's next? When will you be able to test on human beings?
I would say probably this is going to be a compassionate use, and I'm seeing it maybe 6 to 8 years down the line. We still have a lot of work to do in the next year to evaluate. There's going to be a few more pigs. We do our next pig transplant on June 2nd, and that will be pig number 2. Her name is Julia. We already have her on site, and we're going to do exactly the same thing we did for Harry because we need to prove that if we do this exactly the same way, it works every time.
Perfect. All right. Well, Dr. Joan Nichols, some amazing research you guys are doing there. She's the Associate Director of Research and Operations at the Galveston National Laboratory in Texas. Appreciate you joining us on American Medicine Today.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm very sorry, Kimberly.
No, it's okay.
Though.
It's okay.
I know it's what we have to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Dr. Nichols, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Crazy stuff. And the fact that they'll probably be doing this in human beings in the next, 5 to 8 years?
Hopefully, no
euthanization
there. Well, I know the small price to pay, right, to have advancements in medicine, and this is a big one. So thank you to Harry the pig.
Yeah.
Well,
for
you're
his
listening.
sacrifice.
Absolutely. Well, you're listening to American Medicine Today. Coming up next, we're going to have Martin Pistorius, Ghost Boy, whose incredible life is chronicled in the New York Times bestselling memoir, Ghost Boy, the miraculous escape of a misdiagnosed boy trapped inside his own body. He's going to tell us what it was like. So make sure you don't miss out. Stay tuned. You're listening to American Medicine Today.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome's been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Well, thank you for listening to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
Here as always.
Well, we have an exciting guest. We're very pleased to welcome Martin Pistorius to the show. His incredible life is chronicled in the New York Times best-selling memoir, Ghost Boy, The Miraculous Escape of a Misdiagnosed boy trapped inside his own body. And he's going to tell us about it through his computer.
Yeah, he's almost kind of like a Stephen Hawking type in the sense that he can't speak. So he has to type out his answers. So that's what it's going to sound like.
All right. Well, Martin, welcome to the show. We hear that at the age of 12, you fell ill, first losing your voice and then sleeping consistently. Within 18 months, you were mute and wheelchair bound with what doctors said was the mind of a baby. They gave you only 2 years to live. What do you remember from that period of time when you first fell ill?
Thank you. It's great to be on the show. Yes, unfortunately, I don't remember anything from that time. However, listening to stories from family and friends, as well as looking at old photographs, I was able to build up a picture of what I was like as a child. While writing my book, Ghost Boy, I spent a lot of time specifically trying to discover what I was like as a child and what happened around the time I first got sick.
That's amazing. And this really actually, and I was telling some of our production crew, this reminds me of a book I read in high school called Johnny Got His Gun. And it's about a soldier during World War II who became trapped inside his body. And that's just got to be a nightmare. Now, Martin, around the time you were 16, I guess your mind started to come back, yet you were still unable to let anybody know that you were there, awake and aware. I mean, they just saw this unresponsive boy in a wheelchair. What was it like being trapped inside your own body, completely unable to let your parents know that the real you was there?
I don't know if it is possible to truly describe what it was like, but I often say it was like being a ghost, which is why the title of my book is Ghost Boy. You can hear, see, and understand everything around you, but you have absolutely no power over anything. For me, that feeling of complete and utter powerlessness is probably the worst feeling I have ever experienced. It is like you don't exist and every single thing in your life is decided by someone else. Everything, from what you wear to what you eat and drink, even if you eat or drink, to where you will be tomorrow or next week, and there is nothing you can do about it.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable strength it must have taken for you, Martin. What was your day-to-day life like for the next several years? And how did you manage to find the mental strength to cope with that unbearable situation? Did you develop any sort of inner fantasies to kind of occupy your mind during that time?
I spent most of my days in a care center for children with severe physical and mental disabilities. I often sat in the same exact spot for hours at a time. If there was a radio on nearby that would help. But I mostly just tried to cope by escaping into my mind. I would literally lose myself in my imagination. I'd imagine all sorts of things, like being very small and climbing into a spaceship and flying away, or that my wheelchair would magically transform into a flying vehicle a la James Bond, with rockets and missiles. I would sometimes watch things move, whether it be how sunlight moved throughout the day, or watching insects of some sort scurry about. But really, I lived in my mind.
Oh, I would imagine you would have to. I mean, you completely can't communicate with anybody. Now, speaking of, you said that you would listen to music and watch television and things like that. I understand that your parents used to, so the doctors told them that you have the mind of a baby, of an infant. So they probably thought, through no fault of their own, well, he might like children's shows. So I understand they would park you in front of a television for hours on end watching Barney. I mean, that just must have been absolutely torturous. Can you describe what you were feeling at the time, having to watch Barney constantly?
Yes, to this day I hate Barney. Not that I have anything against Barney, but it triggers memories and emotions which are really difficult for me. It's not just Barney, there are a number of other triggers. But I think in a way because Barney is so happy and jolly, and I wasn't, it made it worse. But at the same time, I can see the funny sides of it now.
At least he has a sense of humor about it now.
Oh, gosh.
Unreal. Wow.
Oh. As the months turned into years, Martin, did you think you'd be able to communicate with your family and try to somehow alert them that you were conscious and you knew exactly what was happening around you?
At first, yes. But then as time passed and I began to realize that nobody knew I was there, I resigned myself to the fact that this is it. This is all my life will ever be. This scared me at times. The thought of spending the remainder of my life locked inside my body waiting to die, probably all alone in some care home. It was often too much for me to bear, and it terrified me so much that I tried to avoid thinking about it.
And you mentioned wanting to die. And one of the more tragic parts of the book, Ghost Boy, is a little passage about your mother, who no doubt was stressed out from just years and years of having to take care of this son who isn't really there, but really is there. She just doesn't know that. And apparently at one point she actually muttered that she wished you were dead or would die. I mean, that must have been horrible. How did that make you feel? Do you really think that she meant it at the time?
Yes, my mother. I think my entire family was deeply affected by what happened to me. But my mother in particular really struggled to come to terms with it. For her, it was like her son died when he was 12. So while I was very sad and upset by what she said, I understood where that was coming from. It broke my heart in a way, but not so much because of what she had said, but because we were in a situation where she felt that everyone would be better off if I wasn't alive.
Oh, goodness.
Well, I mean, I don't have children, but I got to imagine that just the stress of a situation like that would
Gotta
make
take its
you,
toll.
yeah, and and everyone says things that they don't mean all the time. So, and she had no idea, obviously, that you would hear that and remember it. So,
correct.
That's unbelievable.
Somewhere around the age of 25, there was a new caretaker that kind of had a hunch that you were aware, and they began to convince others at the facility. So you're taken, you're evaluated for an alternative communication device, which you pass, and a whole new world is opened up to you. Why don't you describe what that's like when the new caretaker had a feeling that you were in there? You must have been incredibly excited.
Yes, I was. It's almost indescribable. It was one of the most profound and exciting moments of my life. It not only gave me something else to focus on and think about, but it changed my life. I think being seen and having another person validate your existence is incredibly important. Not just for me in that moment, but for all of us. In a sense, it makes you feel like you matter.
Well, of course, we all take it for granted that we can communicate to each other, and I'm seeing tears in your eyes right now, Kimberly.
Well, because you feel like you can't participate in life, and there it is, and you're watching it pass you by, and now you have that hope.
Yeah, so now that you're able to communicate with this device, how did your life progress from that point, Martin?
The gift of communication possesses enormous power. It changed everything. My world exploded back into life, which was so exciting, but also really daunting and even scary for me at times too. Suddenly I was essentially flung back into the world, a world that I didn't really know or know how to live in. But the moment I tasted freedom, nothing was going to stop me. I got a job, made friends, and ultimately found the love of my life.
Oh, wow.
During that time, did the doctors ever figured out what exactly your illness was? Did they figure out what happened?
No, not really. Apart from testing positive for tuberculosis of the brain and cryptococcal meningitis, there has been no conclusive diagnosis. To be honest, the mystery behind my illness doesn't bother me at all. I am who I am, and I'm okay with that. I don't dwell on the past or even really think about it. I live and enjoy life as much and as best I can.
That's just an unbelievable spirit inside this man. It's amazing. Now, clearly you're speaking to us through one of these communication devices. I'm assuming you can type, so you have some mobility. Is there any hope that you'll ever regain your voice and all of your mobility again, Martin?
It has taken a lot of hard work over the last several years, but I have already been fortunate to gain better control over my hands and increased upper body strength. This has enabled me to be more mobile in a wheelchair. But I have my doubts on ever being able to walk again, mainly because of various surgeries I have had. Frankly, it is more important to me to be mobile than to walk. Even if I were to start to walk again, it would be painful and slow, whereas I am now far more able and agile in my wheelchair. As far as regaining my voice, no, I don't think so, but then you never know what the future holds. But to me, it is not important how you communicate, but that you communicate. The ability to communicate is not only a human right, but a fundamental aspect of being human. Through communication, we convey our thoughts, feelings, and choices, expressing our personality and connecting with others.
You know, it's been amazingly uplifting to actually hear your story because, as Ethan said before, it's so many things that people take for granted every day, and we have a fresh perspective of somebody that found their voice again and able to communicate. Why don't you tell us what your life is like today?
Life is fantastic. I currently live in England with my beautiful wife, Jonah. I became an author, and my book, Ghost Boy, has thankfully been well received and spent 10 straight weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. I was also fortunate enough to be able to study and graduate with a degree in computer science and got my driver's license. Life really is wonderful. I am truly happy now.
That's so amazing. The guy went from being the ghost boy and living like that, just a living hell for 10 or more years. Now he's married. He got a degree.
Yes.
I mean,
driver's license.
There's hope for anybody. Well, we're about out of time here, Martin. Do you have any parting words for our audience?
I just hope that anyone who hears my story will come to know that there is always hope, no matter how small. I want to encourage those listening to treat everyone they meet with kindness, dignity, compassion, and respect, whether you think they understand or not. Never underestimate the power of the mind or the importance of love and faith, and to never stop dreaming.
All right.
An incredible story. Martin Pistorius, thank you so much for joining us. Author of the New York Times bestselling memoir, Ghost Boy, The Miraculous Escape of a Misdiagnosed Boy Trapped Inside His Own Body. We truly appreciate you for joining us here on American Medicine Today.
Thank you, Martin.
Continued good health.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
All
Take
right,
care.
Have a great day. All right, what an totally uplifting story. Amazing.
It certainly is amazing things here that we have on American Medicine Today. Coming up after the break, well, you'll hear more. Stay tuned.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome's been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact, I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
You're listening to American Medicine Today, presented by the Bonati Spine Institute, featuring the internationally acclaimed inventor of the Bonati spine procedures, Alfred Bonati, MD. Once again, here are Dr. Bonati and your host, Kimberly Brumell.
Thank you for continuing to listen to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Brumell, joined by our radio executive producer, Ethan Euchre.
I am here.
And Dr. Bonati in spirit.
Yes.
World-renowned orthopedic surgeon. He's really going to be sad that he missed out on this because we have Dr. Michael Grossman, Associate Dean at the University of Arizona College of Medicine, here to discuss the difference in training between DOs and MDs. And this is something Dr. Bonati is very passionate about.
Well, and again, the whole reason for this whole conversation, well, first of all, thank you for joining us, Dr. Grossman. How you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you.
Well, the whole reasoning behind this conversation is because I, as a person who, my background isn't in health. I'm a broadcaster.
Correct.
So I don't know. I'm a good reflection of the general public who don't know a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Bernardi brought it to your attention,
Yes.
Kimberly, which was then brought to my attention,
Mhm.
that there's a major difference in the training
Correct.
between an MD, a medical doctor, and what are called DOs.
Yeah.
So can you sort of explain what that difference is, Dr. Grossman, and why it's so important to know the difference?
Well, you're making Dr. Bernardi's had a very large generalization, but he's forgetting a couple interesting pieces of information.
Okay.
There is a difference in the approach to medical education at some DO's medical schools as opposed to all the allopathic schools. Not all of them. One of the big differences is the amount of time, energy, and finances that go into research and scholarly activity is much less in the DO schools than in the MD schools. DO schools focus more on hands-on basic elements of practice without getting into a lot of the theoretical stuff.
Okay.
Not all of them, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part is the osteopathic manipulation techniques that they teach, and is a very important consideration.
Okay.
However, when it comes to what happens after they graduate from medical school and they go on to graduate medical education and learn the fine aspects, anywhere from 3 to 5 years or more of training in their subspecialty or specialty, the basic difference is that the DOs can actually train in allopathic programs.
Okay.
So even though they have the initials DO after their name, they may have been trained in an absolutely excellent allopathic training program, and you don't know that unless you look at their credentials, because you won't see a difference, MD versus DO, in that regard.
Can I ask a couple questions, though? As we think about this, what is the typical grade point average required for a candidate to enter medical school to become an MD?
That is a very, a grade point average is one of the parameters that are utilized. And it's if you're not at a 3.5 or above at a good school, the likelihood of getting in is a little lessened.
Okay. And then what is that same requirement for a DO? And with that said, if it's a 3.5 or above, why would they do DO versus MD?
Why they what?
Why, if I would ask the same, then what is the typical grade point average of a student to enter school to become a DO? Is it the same as an MD? And if so, why wouldn't somebody choose to just become a full-fledged medical doctor versus a doctor of osteopathy?
Very intriguing questions. First of all, there is a crossover in the admission criteria for entering medical school and osteopathic school.
Okay.
In general, I think, and I haven't seen these statistics for a long time, so I could be way off on my comment here. But in general, the curves intersect at a point where probably 30% of the DOs have at least the same score or above the average for allopathic school, so that there's it's a double-edged or a double humped scale. There are more, 50% or so, maybe on the other side of that, are DOs, and greater than 50% are on the MD side to the right of that, showing a higher score. But these are generalizations. And the grade point average is only one of many criteria that are utilized for admission to medical school. And one of the things that is really many medical schools try real hard these days is to look at minorities and try to increase the number of minority students by offering all kinds of academic assistance for those who probably will be capable of getting through but will need some extra work.
Okay.
So you can't just go by grade point average. That's just one of many criteria.
Okay. If let's step aside then from grade point average, but if we're talking top schools, top universities out there are the ones that have MD programs, how come those same campuses don't also offer certifications for DOs? How come they're typically separate?
Some do. The University of Michigan State and the University of Michigan have DOMD.
Okay.
There's, I think, on Ohio they do that.
Mm-hmm.
There are several places around the country that do.
Okay.
It's kind of a difficult situation. It's expensive.
Sure.
And I can't tell you the reason, except that running a medical school is very expensive, and there's very little support for it in higher education these days.
Okay. Would you say then a DO is just as capable as treating patients as MDs, even though medical doctors have more training in certain areas?
Well, yeah, Dr. Grossman, what would you say? What would you tell someone who was looking for a doctor?
Yeah.
Should they find an MD, or is a DO acceptable?
A DO is acceptable in many areas. It depends on where they did their graduate medical education training.
But for specialties?
DO programs have not been as good or at the same level of accreditation that the MD programs have been in. However, the better DO students are very competitive, and they can get into those programs. So just by going with a DO versus MD isn't quite enough. You need more information.
Okay. Because, I realize it's expensive to train an MD, but there is a difference between a medical doctor, a doctor of osteopathy, a nurse practitioner, and now what they're trying to say would be like a healthcare provider. And I think too many times...
very different levels
exactly.
Of approach.
I agree.
Advanced nurse practitioners have some abilities to work sometimes on their own individually, but usually under the aegis of a physician. But DOs are, this is an interesting thing because it's evolved over the year. When I was in active military back in the 70s, I graduated from medical school in the 60s and went on active duty, and everybody had to go on active duty in those days who graduated from medical school. However, they did not take DOs in the Army at that time. They just didn't accept them as being physicians. But that has changed over the years, and now there are just as many DOs in military and just as many DOs on faculty positions in allopathic schools. Having a DO degree does not obviate you working in a medical school and an MD medical school as a faculty person.
Okay. And do you think that's because Obamacare has tried to turn this as a practice of medicine from the people that are geared towards specialties more to GPs?
No, I don't think so. There's a mythology about DOs going into primary care more than anybody else, and I don't think that's actually true. I think there are just as many DOs who have gone through allopathic subspecialty training than as there are in primary care.
The only thing that bothers me is sometimes we read in the papers that they're trying to fast track medical programs, and it just scares me that if typical MDs are put through a rigorous training and curriculum, and then there's other ways to kind of deviate from that but still end up with a degree, I think that's scary medicine.
You're scaring me too. I actually... With all the new regulations that we have to deal with, including we have work hour limitations that we have imposed in the graduate medical education programs, not based on a whole lot of really good fact, on some fact, but not overwhelming fact. And some of the studies have shown that, and this is supposed to be preventing medical errors because of fatigue and things of that sort. And the data being collected on that isn't overwhelming at this point, although many countries have really cut down the work week. The average right now for allopathic programs, you cannot work more than 80 hours a week, which sounds like a lot. But when I was in training, we actually worked a lot more than that. So, I mean, it's very difficult to pinpoint this, but we are actually seeing some diminishment in board pass rates in some specialties because of the work hours that limit the amount of experience that somebody gets in the usual thing. We may have to look at a whole new way of evaluating this in the next year or two. And there is a lot of movement to try to streamline medical education, and I'm not particularly in favor of it, but I guess I'm just a dinosaur anyway.
No.
All right. Well, good information. Dr. Michael Grossman, Associate Dean at the University of Arizona College of Medicine. Thank you for joining us on American Medicine Today, sir.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, you're listening to American Medicine Today. If you or someone you know is suffering with neck, back, or sciatic pain, reach out to the Bonati Spine Institute, 855-267-0482, or visit Bonati.com. Well, that wraps it up for this week. So make sure you watch out for us on Bloomberg, Saturdays and Sundays, and here locally, WFTS ABC 28 at 7. See you next time.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.
This is the first time that I am pain-free after 18 years. And it's just wonderful. I love it.
Phenomenal results. No pain whatsoever.
My pain is virtually gone. Nothing short of a miracle.
Those surgeries gave me my life back.
Already, I feel like a new person.
I'm going home new. I can chase my grandbaby now. I can garden. I can cook. And I'm really thrilled. The outcome's been remarkable.
I feel 100% better.
It's like a miracle.
It was phenomenal. It literally did change my life.
I was in a wheelchair at that time, and I left here walking.
Every single pain that I had when I came here is gone.
I'm ready to go home and feel great. This place is great. Thank you.
Everything that they said they would do, they have done, and I'm very, very satisfied and happy with those results.
I knew in surgery, in fact I told the surgeon when he relieved the pain off the nerve.
The pain is gone. I'm feeling wonderful.
I have no pain. I feel better than I felt in 4 years from the surgery. It was almost immediate relief.
Today I am totally pain-free, which is just amazing. It's fantastic.
It definitely works. I mean, I really don't know what else to tell you. I'm happy.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati spine procedures, they consistently reflect over 94% patient satisfaction. 45,000 successful procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail.